Hello, welcome. My name is Eric Mielda, and today I'm going to be presenting why cannabis is becoming legal throughout America. First off, this is cannabis. It's a Schedule I drug mandated by the federal government, which means it has no medical use and a very high potential for abuse. In that category, along with cannabis, is methadone, heroin, LSD, peyote, MDMA, and GHB. You may be wondering, why the heck would America allow a Schedule I drug to become legal? Well, it's already actually legal in a lot of states. It is recreationally legal in Washington, D.C., Oregon, Alaska, Colorado, California, Massachusetts, Nevada, and Maine, and medically allowed in the following states that are kind of light green. Americans' views on legalization were pretty slim in the 60s, 70s, 80s. Only until about recently, the tipping point around 2011 has it been more accepted, and people have wanted to legalize it more. Cannabis is a pretty old plant. It's been around for a long time. It hasn't always been perceived as a bad substance. In fact, it has roots back 12,000 years ago, where it was used for rope making, and also in ancient Egypt, you could find medical recipes that had cannabis in them. More recently, Tilden's extract in the 1850s used cannabis for various different ailments, and in more modern times, it's used for anorexia, spasticity, pain, glaucoma, epilepsy, dependencies and withdrawals from drugs, among other medical purposes. It was outlawed in 1937, or about 80 years ago, which wasn't really that long compared to how long cannabis has been around and used. So you might be wondering, why was it outlawed in the first place? Because unless you know why it was outlawed in the first place, it's kind of hard to understand why it's being legalized again. So in the early 1900s, there was a lot of anti-Mexican sentiments. Mexicans were coming over the border, they were bringing with them cannabis, and there were suspected cannabis-induced murders in California and in Texas. People were very frightened. They didn't know that much about this substance, and they were frankly just scared. Enter William Randolph Hearst of the Hearst Company. He owned a really, really big, popular media source of that day, papers, magazines, and such. And he emphasized sensationalized stories, popular interest stories, and of note, he didn't like Mexicans. He was a pretty racist guy. He invested very heavily in the timber industry to support his magazines and newspapers, for paper obviously, and he didn't want to see inexpensive hemp paper take over his profits. With him, DuPont and the big pharma companies were in the same boat. They didn't want to see people make their own drugs, because they want to sell drugs for profit. And also, nylon came out in 1935, just 2 years before it was outlawed. And they made nylon rope, and you can make rope pretty easily from hemp, very cheap. So they both didn't want to see the legalization of marijuana. So they got together with his media company, and they produced sensationalized stories about reefer madness and pot opens the doors and devil's harvest, just to scare people, really, for their own benefit. So sensationalism and and the lies went over medical science just 2 years after all those sensationalized papers came out. So some key points: cannabis is becoming legal throughout America. One, because Americans want it to be legal. There's a 60-40 split for and against. Cannabis is not seen by a terrible substance by very many people, and cannabis was banned partly on sensationalized stories. A further point, 43.2% of all drug arrests in 2015 were actually for marijuana, which totals 643 arrests, quite a lot of arrests just for marijuana alone. And if you consider the average incarceration for marijuana is 36.8 months, over that span of time, the taxpayer can expect to pay $46 billion. This is $1 billion made out of $100 bills. Imagine 46 of these, and that's what the taxpayers are paying for marijuana prosecutions. A lot of money. It's also very discriminatory, because this represents whites and blacks that have used marijuana in the past 12 months, and it's fairly equal. This is the incarcerations for whites and blacks, and you can see black people get incarcerated far more often for marijuana than white people do. So it's a very discriminatory. So some key points: the prosecution of cannabis is insanely expensive for taxpayers, and the prosecution of cannabis is also very racially fueled and discriminatory. My main point, another main point that I have is that in America, capitalism rules, the almighty dollar wins over everything, and cannabis makes a boatload of money. In the very first year, one of the very first states to legalize cannabis, Colorado, they made $1 billion. Of that $1 billion, 200 million of it went towards tax dollars to help fund schools, public health care, police, all way better things to put your money towards than locking people up. And that's just in Colorado. And nationally, it made $12 billion in revenue. So you can imagine the tax dollars that are generated to help schools, the public health system, and police. And it's also scheduled to, it could generate by 2020, $21 billion. That means that the marijuana growth is greater than the 2000 dot-com boom. And you guys know that the dot-com boom was pretty big, so it's poised to make a lot of money. So some key points: cannabis is becoming legal throughout America. One, because Americans want it, 60-40 split for and against. Cannabis was outlawed for unscrupulous reasons. The prosecution of cannabis is very racially fueled and discriminatory. The prosecution of cannabis is very, very expensive for the taxpayers. Legal cannabis is going to save a lot of money, and legal cannabis makes a lot of money. So that's my presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned a little something. Again, my name is Eric Mielda. Thank you for watching.